figured it out super fast.
See, it's pretty easy.
Okay, so that was just Clubhouse because my headset does work over here. Kira. Okay. Hi. Ty made it over quickly. Now I really am glad I showered this morning. Kira, aren't you glad you showered this morning too?
I'm like not even.
I'm like, here we are with face.
No makeup, no nothing. We're just going all natural today. It's all right.
I don't own makeup.
I sell makeup, so.
Oh, you got plenty of it then.
I actually sell really simple compacts. It's kind of great for busy moms.
So IG Live, I can only have 3 people at a time.
Oh.
So what we can do is we'll start with us, and then when you two are done, you two can hop out, and then I'll bring in Jen and AC.
And then we'll all just kind of just watch the live. Does that work?
Yeah, because we can only do 3 at a time. All right. So Miss Kira.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess we're not on Clubhouse. I need to reopen this back up. Is Anthony ready with recording? Is Tony ready with recording?
I'm going to do a screen capture. That's just what I'll do. And then let me invite
I can do that.
people
I can do that
here.
too, though. Yes, please do.
And
I'm going to do a screen recording as well.
I'll be right back.
Now that since we haven't started yet, I have time to do it. Start recording. There we go. Oh, yay. Yeah, we were on Clubhouse, and it just like, I think because I'm not known over there yet, like I don't have my footing yet, that there's just like nobody was in there except for Miss Ty. Miss Ty came in. But then Georgia was like, well, let's go to IG. And I was like, well, that's a good idea because she's got a lot of followers over here. I have a lot of followers over here. Kira, I haven't looked at your follow count, but it doesn't matter either way.
But I mean, it's not real impressive.
It doesn't need to be. At least you'll have somebody that sees it. Yeah, I already have 7 viewers on my side. Hello. Welcome, everyone. I am Amanda. I am founder of Canna Moms Are Good Moms Too, which is a national, worldwide, award-winning, I keep forgetting to add that in at the beginning, nonprofit. And my nonprofit is here for education and community learning etiquette, proper ins and outs of the cannabis plants and what it really does do for us. Sorry, AC was trying to come in and she distracted me with the thing on top. Anyways, and we're here just to spread truth, but we're also here to give moms a community so they can be a good mom and just have a safe place. But I recently went to Reno, as some of you saw, and while I was in Reno, I got to meet some fabulous people. Some people that have been in this industry just a short amount of time as I have, and some people that have been in it for years, long time. AC Moon, which I'm trying to get in over here, was actually the reason why I'm doing this topic, because I've been in the cannabis industry since December, and I do a lot of researching. Don't worry, girls, I'll add you back in just a second. I do a lot of researching and digging. I do on the medical, I look at the medical side, I look at on the law side, I look into all of it, like just dig. And I never thought of this side. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I never personally thought about what would actually happen if we took cannabis and federally legalized it right now. I didn't think of all of the things that would crumble and crash, not happen, get looked over. AC, we're in here. I'm actually going to invite you in. Come in. There we go. Yay! AC found me over here. AC that's coming on in is the reason why I started this topic, or why I'm doing this topic. anyways, because I feel like it's important because there are some things that are on this other side that I don't think people stop and think about and like truly ponder and think of what the next step would be if it were to happen, because everybody is so hyper focused on just wanting it legalized so everybody has access. But when everybody has access now before we're ready, what does that mean for everybody else? So let me try and add in AC one more time. AC, I'm going to send you an invite if you want to hop in with me over here. Or if you don't want to hop in here, that's fine too. I can just pull in Kira. But I feel like it's important because there was a lot of really good things that were said in Reno as to why we're not ready yet. Like things I think people are not taking into consideration. All right. Kira, where are you? I wanted Kira to go on after AC. So we'll go ahead and do Kira now, since everybody's in here waiting. Sent you an invite, Miss Kira. Hi, Kira.
Hi.
Thank you for hopping on. When we were discussing this stuff on Discord, there was just a lot of things that you were like right on the same page with. But being a medical patient that since 2012, you've been on that side for a really long time before it was accessible to a lot of other people. And I feel like on the medical side, there are things that are not being taken into consideration and before it just does become. And I want to hear why you think we aren't ready.
So I did do some notes. I was prepared for the radio, so we're going to do some video.
Yes.
I am a cannabis advocate from Michigan. I'm 30 years old. I live by the mantra that we have to help each other and help each other flourish as families, as successful human beings. Like it's the compassionate way, and I think it's the new way. So I think that I share the same mindset as the majority of my generation. I at least hope so. So my story is in 2008, Michigan legalized medical marijuana through the Michigan Compassionate Care Act initiative known as Proposal 1, passed by 63%. We were the 13th state to legalize medical marijuana and the first in the Midwest, which like I feel like it really set it off for the Midwest because that's when states around us started going green. In 2018, we passed for recreational marijuana. That was majority vote by 56%. We were the 10th state to legalize recreational consumption. So that means 21 years old can possess up to 2.5 ounces in public, 10 more ounces at home, and they can have 12 plants that they can grow how they see fit with what they know is in their plants. In 2019, Michigan allowed sales or dispensaries to open for recreational sales, and that was actually, we couldn't buy anything until 2020. So there was a lot of regulation that had to happen there. So in 2012, I was asked if I was interested in a medical marijuana card by who was then going to be my caregiver. He was my uncle, so he was, a family friend, friendly face. So we went out to Birch Run, Michigan, and I, went in there to see the doctor, and I was like, hey, my back hurts, and I came up with all these things that the reason I needed medical marijuana because I didn't feel like anxiety was enough. And he slapped me on the back and he goes, I don't need to know why you're here. You're here because you're at a medical marijuana clinic. So he signed my paperwork and I went home and sent in a MoneyGram to the state, where the state actually took forever to cash it. So once it cashed, my paperwork was legal. The morning that it became legal, they cashed it. It was April 20th, coincidentally. So I actually had a knock on my door that morning because my neighbors had smelled marijuana, and I had a lot of traffic coming in and out of my apartment. So they called with a concern. Well, what my neighbors didn't know is that I had just went through a very traumatic situation where I had lost my daughter. And they were coming to check on me to make sure I was okay. And of course, I was using cannabis as medicine to keep me calm, to make me eat. It was traumatic. It was not a good, I couldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So coincidentally, that morning of, 4/20, my paperwork actually went through. So the officers had seen that I had 2 ounces sitting right on my table, and I gave them my paperwork, not even knowing that I was legal. They told me that was a lot to have with how quick I'd filed my paperwork, and then they left. So after that, I started my first grow. Not mine personally. I started helping with a grow, and I had learned that my family friend had literally built his family up out of debt, okay? Lifted them up, maintained a healthy household with a beautiful home, family, the American dream, or at least the millennial American dream. That was my eye opener, is that this is how people are going to spend their lives, building their empires to pass on their legacies, to pass on to their children. I have so many friends and families with the same testaments. The reality of the matter is that it's all political. It has to be. Right now, we're in this terrible toxic standard of policy and political fire, and are you red, are you blue? Well, what happens if we legalize right now? This is what happens. We have red, the rich, old white men who want to have their money. They just want the money. You have the blue that backs big pharma. Both want quantity over quality. What's going to happen is it's going to cut out our small family farms. The people who have built the last 15 years on this to pass on to their families. The federal government will cut corners. They'll put poison in our plants. I don't mean poison. I mean, it's not going to be the best. It's going to turn into cutting corners and diluting and devaluing our medicine. And we won't be able to grow our own because they can't regulate what we do at home. People will suffer with their medicine. There's so many things I want to say, and I know I'm running out of time, and I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah, because that's actually the perfect ending spot for me to pull Georgia on, because Georgia's husband actually has brain cancer, and thanks to cannabis, he's no longer doing chemo.
My
So that
last
is,
point, the last
go
point
ahead.
that I would love to end on is I feel like the state level, regulating at the state level has worked for us. We need to continue to do that.
Yeah.
And I vow to advocate for, you know, federally decriminalizing.
Well, I mean, but think about it. If take not doing it federally, but doing it by state, like opening up all of the states, that would be better for us than having the federal government come in.
So even if our fight just branched out into 50 different states instead of one government, this is where we're going to be successful. This is where our families are going to succeed. And this is where we're going to be safest with the value of our medication.
I agree.
Anyways, Georgia has some lovely points, and
I just added her in.
Morning.
Hi. I feel like Kira ending it on that medical was perfect for you to slide in. That was like your perfect slide in point.
Segue. I'm kind of one that writes things down. I have to like kind of collect my thoughts and write everything down. So bear with me. He is a clone master. My friend Growing Ganja Mama, if you guys don't follow Christina, the Growing Ganja Mama, she is great. Her husband is OG grower with my husband in California. Those men they're cannabis wizards. All right. So I'm going to kind of be looking down, and I apologize, but I had to write everything down to just kind of get my thoughts together. So this is a topic we talk a lot about in my house because my husband is a hardcore libertarian that doesn't believe in government involvement, and my mom is a hardcore pro-union liberal that really, really believes in all of that stuff. So we have very interesting conversations. Luckily, everybody respects each other, so we can just kind of learn instead of what happens on Facebook. So federal legalization. First and foremost, we have to start by setting a distinction between legalization and regulation. I live in a legal state, quote unquote, which is a term that we've coined to describe states in which cannabis is available to people over the age of 21. But that's not really true. Take tomatoes. Tomatoes are legal. I can grow tomatoes in my backyard. I can do whatever I want with those tomatoes. I can go down to the farmer's market and I can sell them. I can drive around with 50 pounds of tomatoes in my car from state to state. Now, cannabis is regulated and very highly as well. In California, the state where I live, a person over 21 years of age is allowed to legally grow 6 plants and possess up to an ounce of flower and 8 grams of concentrate. Not legal, regulated. So legalization to me is just a term that they're using to try to get people to buy into an agenda. Because what it really is regulations. And regulations mean rules and more money. And the only ones that benefit from regulations are corporations. The way things are written now, each state is a master of their own destiny as far as their laws go. What's written in Colorado and Oregon is different from what we have here in California. The taxes are different, the rules are different, the regulations are all just a little different. To go even further, I live in a city that's decided to refuse licenses for any cannabis businesses at all. I can purchase, grow, consume in my state and county, but my city won't let me buy any. So I live in a legal state in a county that issues licenses in a city that won't allow it. It's all very confusing. So what's going to happen when all those states start their interstate commerce? Cannabis grown in California has to be processed, sold, and consumed in California. So what happens when the cannabis grown in California is sent to another state? Whose laws are followed? What taxes are paid? The taxes on cannabis are already outrageous in comparison to other goods. The MORE Act itself says it provides tax on sales, which would go into communities negatively impacted by cannabis. All I hear there is, we want to tax you more, and we will decide where the money is sent. Trust us. Well, it'll only go where it should. Cue the eye roll. With interstate commerce comes a lot more money. Each state has booming weed economy and lots of money generating, but it's still small enough that the big guys haven't gotten involved yet. As my husband says, no one wants the next $1 million idea. They want the next $100 million one. And that's what cannabis is. As soon as cannabis economy becomes big enough, it becomes something of interest to the major retailers and corporations. In comes Amazon, Walmart, and all that comes along with that. The cannabis industry has a heartbeat like no other industry does. For generations, people like Mark and Brett have had to grow under fear of going away for a very long time just to provide medicine and amazing feeling for people. The heartbeat would change the moment the big corporations started to get involved. All of a sudden, your legacy farmers are not growing plants anymore. They're being forced out by not having been paid or been taken advantage of. It's happened in our own county here. Then the guy comes in who'll do it for cheaper and put more lights and more square footage. And then the quality immediately starts to suffer. Cannabis growing is not something you can force. It's nature, and it's a science, and it's a love affair with the plant. Just look at Canada's situation currently and in the last few years. Federal legalization came on in 2018 and has brought on problems for the Canadian smoker. All you have to do is just Google Canada cannabis, and you can see all the problems that the government-grown cannabis has. They have cannabis with mold. They have cannabis that won't get you high. They have cannabis that's so old, you crush it and it turns to dust. And don't even get me started on the price. The demand for legal cannabis created a shortage and anything got put out. That meant if it wasn't mature enough, if it had bugs, mold, it went out. The people in Canada yearned for a time before weed got watered down and ruined. And that's what happens when big business and government comes to town. As Amanda said, I'm a medical patient as well as a caregiver. My husband is the main grower in the house, having had dozens of successful home grows, as well as 2 years spent as a cultivator in legal weed for Monterey Kush Co., where he was in charge of 250,000 square feet of greenhouse. He's also a master cloner, and I'm beyond grateful to get to learn from him for as long as I have him. I've had my own couple grows before our marriage, before we got together, but nothing like him, don't get me wrong. We both always consumed cannabis for one reason or another, but in January, our lives were changed when he was diagnosed with brain cancer. Suddenly, the need for clean cannabis for him to use to heal became paramount. To have control over his medicine in a time when we felt everything was out of our control. We're about to harvest our first grow since his diagnosis, and it's been a different process this time. I look at cannabis with a whole new love and appreciation. I'm more than grateful for this plant. I am literally humbled by the miracles I've seen. The beauty of a smaller grow is intention behind it, the attention to detail, its passion for the plant. I spoke to one of my friends, Tyler, and asked him his opinion on going legal, and he said the very same things. We're not ready for federal legalization because they haven't figured out how to get it right state by state yet. We need to let the people in this community that were here before it was cool put their flags down and get their first shot. Remember, it was them risking their lives and freedom that have brought us to the place we are now. They deserve our respect, and they deserve the first shot at this. With 40% of the US population living in what's considered a legal state, the focus needs not to be on federal legalization, but federal decriminalization and removing from the Schedule I narcotics list. We need to get every single person out in jail who's in there for a plant. We need to get the consumers good quality cannabis at a fair price. And we need to make medical cannabis available for everyone. But I just don't believe that federal legalization is where we need to start. If you're in one of the 32 states and not legal, write your congressman, learn your laws. We need more state-by-state decision on regulations. Federal legalization will just be another way to allow the government in and into a sacred spot where they have no reason to be. We have no reason to trust them. Remember, cannabis went from being in a pharmaceutical book to a Schedule I drug in less than 30 years because the government wanted to use it as a tool to control and practice racism. I do not trust them with my medicine then, now, or ever in my future. So that's it.
Awesome.
It's just, you can't let them in. It's our sacred space still, and we need to be in control of it.
Perfect. All right. If you two want to slide out, I'm going to, AC has a follow-up to you, Georgia. And then I also want to hear from Jen too. Thanks, ladies. Sorry we had to do camera.
You're good.
All right. Jen, if you could go ahead and mute your camera. I'm sliding AC in as well. AC, I just sent you an invite. I want to hear your follow-up to what Georgia said. There she is. The girl that started this topic.
What's up, guys? How you
Hi.
doing?
All right.
No, I wasn't expecting IG. I'm
We
like,
weren't.
not really.
We weren't either.
Okay, well, IG then. Morning, all you 11 beautiful people that are here.
Good morning.
One of my unfavorite topics in the world, especially for 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Thank you for making my Saturday beautiful.
Going in hot.
Okay, so to let everybody know, I've been working in weed pretty much my entire life. Cannabis has been my entire career. I am a multiple victim of federal raids. My partner was incarcerated in federal penitentiary for 24 plants. I was forced to leave the country and to give up my son in order to avoid indictment by the federal government. I started my first club in 2001. I was an advocate because my mother and my entire family died of cancer, and I myself was battling cancer with a premature child. I can't tell you the journey I've been on, and I kind of refuse to on IG, no offense, but it's a gnarly journey, and there's a reason that I have an alias and nobody knows my name, and there's a reason I'm not that comfortable on IG when tons of people are like, there she is live talking about that subject. So the things that I found out through this entire time, and I really appreciate, hi Bobby, what's up? How you doing, bro? I really appreciate, all the different communities coming together talking about federal legalization. I do appreciate everybody's, different perspectives, but I personally believe that if you haven't been actually federally involved or on a large international level involved, that you probably don't have the information that you need in order to really have a fluent conversation about this. It's unfortunate, and I don't mean to belittle anybody by saying these things, but it's a really deep, corrupt subject that not the average human would be able to know about. To be quite blatantly honest, the federal government doesn't give a fucking rat's ass about us smoking weed. They never did. Originally, prohibition was written into the war laws and caused an entire global illegalization and prohibition because they wanted to make sure that they overthrew the commodities that were available through the cultivation of hemp and cannabis, of which at that time were both classified underneath the same bearing. Rescheduling it would not do a huge amount because the fact is that really they're just trying to keep the textile industry, the gas industry, the pharmaceutical industry. You have to understand that all these industries are ran by European countries. They were all built, back in the early 1900s when our entire country was built. They literally wrote that into the laws to make it so that they had the ability to overpower the entire world with fear. And that fear made even Asian countries make it so that you would be beheaded and many other extremely, extremely deep punishments. Even in Haiti to this day, you'll be drug out in public and shot in the head. There is no court, there is no law, there is no jurisdiction. So when we think about what's going on here in like Cali and Colorado and everybody that's joining this conversation, the conversation is a corrupt one. Media is to the point where we've regurgitated so many facts that are hearsay. And, my one friend down there that did that, it's gotten to the point where you see a post that was reposted from a Facebook, a LinkedIn, and 3 other media sites. And you want to believe it's all fact, but really everything is a corrupt amount of bullshit going on. You have to look really deeper into the intrinsics. Diplomacy, diplomatics, policy, and everything that. These are all just based on money. People only vote Republican because it's based on money. People only these different political parties, they're just a bipartisan. In the end, they all have to work together for one thing: narcissistic authoritarianism. Everybody has to be able to overthrow somebody because there's no kings if all people are kings. There is no queens if all people are queens. You have to have people that are subdued, out of power, to be able to have one person that is in power. And that is how the world works in every sense. That's why we have communism. That's why we have all these things. A lot of people talk about cannabis like it's a cure-all. It's not a cure-all. I'm sorry. All plants are an amazing full-spectrum agent. but a lot of people don't realize what they're just using on the daily. Do any of you even know what aspirin truly is? I've written several books right now about the fact that people don't even know that aspirin is a birch tree. Most people don't know that cloning gels are willow plants. Most of the things around you on the daily that you use are synthesized and completely, they're a way of capitalizing on our every movement, down to the point of right now we're all on IG. Every moment of our life is a game of capitalism. It really has, nobody really cares if you smoke weed or that guy down the street smoked weed or grew some weed. That's such a small drop in the bucket when it comes to an entire globe of prohibition that's actually going on. And what federal legalization actually means is it's a standpoint. If you work in international cannabis at all, you'll notice that CBD doors have opened because of the laws dropping in the United States. Basically, the world saw it as a flag and said, okay, well, the United States isn't going to bear war on us, because at one point they were aligned with other extremely powerful European countries such as Russia, which now is being aligned with China. That's the reason we're having some problems in the whole commerce of things right now, because you get two major mega powers going through with all those European countries. And the largest manufacturing and recycling company in the world all exist in Asia. Know that they're about to overthrow us in a lot bigger ways. And if they can keep us talking about cannabis, they're going to be like, all right, these druggies are just talking about this. They're not noticing that they're going to overthrow the world while we're all busy talking about subjects that they don't really give a shit about. They want to know that you're going to buy their fuel. They want to know that you're going to buy all these textiles. They're going to want to know all that. And then if you're smoking weed afterwards and you really believe that it's not, that it's going to save you from cancer, then okay. But it's also diet, it's practices, it's mentality, it's your energy around you, it's the environment, the water you intake, and a billion other things. And all that goes into the cannabis that we grow on the daily. So for me, in a personal standpoint, and no, this is a personal standpoint, but I do a lot of research into the middle of the night, many nights, because I fight PTSD from having choppers dropping into my world, from having to crawl out on our stomachs to avoid being incarcerated. When you have to teach the kids to dodge the choppers and they're all hiding underneath the trees. Right now I start even shaking, because it's taken a lot for me to have the balls to work out inside the world when we're being persecuted every day. I haven't legalized my own land, my 40 acres in NorCal, and I've sold all my other lands, even Humboldt, because I'm afraid of further persecution when I try to enter the recreational space that they have created for us. But it's all bullshit. I see Proposition 64 as a major overthrow of our fucking actual endemic medicinal authority power. Our ability to have individual sourcing of organic materials, where people need to understand that, yeah, you grow your own tomatoes and everything else grows too. And we have the ability to heal ourselves with our food, with our smoke, with our practices, with the fact that you're just gardening is a meditation that takes you above and outside the bullshit and stresses of the day. These things, they calm our minds and they fix us. So when it comes to federal re-legislation, rescheduling, and all these types of things, right now they're seeing the big boom coming from the taxation. The taxation is a huge new thing that they're now trying to navigate. How can we grab this money? How can we grab this from every single aspect of things? And so they do need the time to be able to find a way to completely separate the topics. I personally right now am seeing a lot of dissemination. There's not a lot of chemists in a whole bunch of labs. There's not a lot of people that understand genomics and actual DNA sitting inside of laboratories that are sitting there. People jump into the cannabis industry wanting to migrate into another industry, but they don't have the education to back it. So then a few years down the line, they're like, I work in cannabis, I validate myself. Well, you still have to validate yourself through actual education, because we can't evolve this industry to have CGMP, to have, OSHA and OMRI and HACCP and all these other certifications. They come from a place of actual grandeur. I want you to know, as somebody that has read the entire FDA handbook and law book for the United States, there's 8 maggots allowed in every single 8-ounce can of mushrooms that you buy. Every single thing that you consume is allowed a certain amount of contaminants. Every single thing is allowed a certain amount of processed preservatives. And they're actually told that you have to, because same with packaging. They need things to know that it's going to last a certain amount of time, and therefore it's created with these certain elements that aren't necessarily a biological positive for our world. It's a really hard topic that has so many different legs and arms. We can't just walk in and say, just federally legalize it, because they're going to work off of the ignorance of the people that don't understand why they would actually do that. What they're actually doing that is because Big Pharma has not been able to touch the research. And people say that that's a bad thing. People also say that's a good thing. For me, I'm kind of neutral. I want to see the research that goes on, but I personally see a ton of research coming out of Israel, Amsterdam, and major other European countries that have the scientific backing and the notoriety to be able to provide us this actual chemical knowledge of cannabinoids and every aspect of the plant life. So what is going to happen is what they overthrow. Right now we're seeing in people that work in corporate cannabis, which I do a lot, we're seeing acquisitions. Acquisitions and mergers are the biggest thing. As somebody that's also a grassroots grower, and to this day, I'm stopping what I'm doing from harvesting right now to be here talking to you guys, because every voice and every ear counts, is the fact that normal home growing is the only way to go. We can't just jump all of these scales and be like, all of a sudden we're going to be federally legalized, because you don't understand what that means. We do need to uptake our processes. You need to be able to create organic. You need to be able to have sustainable practices that are not only good for the public, but good for the planet in the way of like you're eating, you're smoking toxins. Like, who the hell would want to do that? But we do every day by eating Nabisco products and drinking Snapple. So why would anybody, we want to use cannabis as a catalyst. But the second that they walk in and Big Pharma is allowed to create this research program, what's going to happen is the feds take over. The acquisition happens from all of us growing broke from overtaxation. Overtaxation and compliance is good to one sense, but the narcissistic authoritarianism of them trying to overthrow us with goods and commodities, money, shipping, whatever, is what's going to actually take us to the ground. When none of us can barely come into compliance with any of the factors, and you're pushing out so much money. And for us in California, we got like a $9 per gram or per ounce tax. I think it's per ounce tax all the way up to full poundage. That's an amazing amount of money. And right now we're having a huge amount of floods because a lot of the white market is being forced to push their legal product back into the black market because there's not enough distributionary points, because retail is overtaxed to the point of where it's just off the freaking hook. So at that point, what we're all forced to do is merge. We can't help it. I'm somebody that I am myself, I'm on the edge of merging, of selling out with larger companies. If you don't know licensing and process, I'm a patent inventor and I do know licensing. So I'm lucky to be able to, be able to start from that standpoint. But a lot of people don't know that the acquisitions is where it starts. The first person that goes broke, they got to sell it to somebody else, and they have to sell it to somebody else, and then they sell it to somebody else. And you know what? The only person left with money is all the people that we've been fighting against the whole time. So the only person that's going to be able to supply the money in the end is the one that we've been at war against. So it's really hard if people don't understand that this movement has to be about growing your own. You have to align with looking in your yard, looking around you, saying, okay, I have one house plant. Like, if I have one house plant, I can grow one cannabis plant. And I can learn how to provide for myself, so I'm not taking it out of pocket. I'm not trying to pay taxation. I'm not feeding into some bullshit commerce thing. And I'm not walking into a store and paying $75 for some bullshit last year commercial chemi bullshit. So at this point, it has to be a full rhetoric that has really got a lot of different viewpoints involved in it, in my personal opinion. And hopefully when we do that, we understand that we're setting a huge standpoint. I'm sorry, you can see the camera shaking. Like, I start talking about this and I start like literally freaking out. Like, I have mad PTSD from the raids, and I would be a rich woman right now if I hadn't done what I've done. They rob you, they take everything from you, and then they sit you down and say, fucking bitch, stay. Don't fight for what you believe in, or we will destroy everything. And the people that I work with closely that are very public magazine that I'm not going to say the name of. We were just raided federally last year. You know, they're trying to shut our voices down. To this day, we're being constantly indicted silently, and a lot of us are too afraid to speak up because we're afraid of what our community has to say about that, and afraid of them being able to just follow us to our main door and being like, okay, we can continue, because it's all just corrupt hearsay at this point. So we can say 1,000 things, but in the end, all they want is for us to fail so that they can take over.
I appreciate you getting out of your comfort zone and coming on so much, because like I said, I only heard part of your story while we were in Reno, but now to hear your full story, I owe you so big for getting out of your comfort zone and coming on here, because what you have to say is so important. There are so many people that are just so focused on everybody needs it, let's federalize it so everybody can have it. They are forgetting so much and missing so much that's going to actually happen if that happens.
Absolutely. What I really ask is people just start learning herbal medicine in general, learning that everything around us is plants. The table that we're sitting on, even the rubber that your phone is held in, the only thing is plastic. The plastic comes from, you know, fossilized bones, but a rubber is a rubber tree. Everything you touch on the daily is made from plants. And you need to pay attention to the fact that plants are God. All they're doing is trying to commodity and commerce off of them. And again, you know, spread the word that, you know, ask people around you, do you know what an aspirin is made of? Because you can grow it yourself.
I'm doing that now.
They're making money off of the fillers and the bioproducts that are chemicizing it for bioavailability. We have the drug dealers that everybody knows about. Our doctors are drug dealers on a daily. They're like, here's the codeine, here's this. But they're allowed to because they pay for it. You know, they literally pay to be part of that system. So we have to look at corruption way before we have to look through commercialization, and especially on a global scale, because they're looking for us to set the standard. Because the second we set the standard, just like with CBD and with hemp, the whole world will follow in suit. And there's a lot of countries and a lot of third world countries that have absolutely no power. They don't have what America has. They don't have the internet. They don't have the ability to come together and fight for the plant and fight for our rights. So we have to set a standard that's going to make it so that all these different countries have a voice. And it literally pains me. It freaks me out. I'm just like, oh God, I got to smoke more weed.
every time I get somebody from a different country that comes into my group, I screenshot it and I send it to my mod team. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this country coming in to learn. I get super excited about it, because we have a lot of material here, but other countries don't. So when they come in, I get so excited for them to take something else with them that they may not have over there, because it is important that we ally with them too. It's important.
And I saw someone just mention that I got Georgia Marinakovic. Love your last name. That sounds like a movie star. Get it, girl? Let's talk about mushrooms too. So mushrooms is the same exact concept. Right now, what they're going to do is commercialize and commerce off of it. You don't see me posting IG when I've been growing mushrooms for years, because, God damn it, I don't want to be part of that fucking hype. Excuse my language, but what they're going to do is they're going to jump to commercializing it. They're going to jump to using it and abusing it before they understand the plant. This is a spirit. This is a spirit aspect that, literally, our whole world is built off of mycology. I love the fact that Paul Stamets put that movie out, because it really introduced a lot of people into this setting. But yet there's a lot of mental illness that, not everybody should be popping mushrooms. I mean, some people are gonna reefer madness up on everybody, just freak out. Anything that you thought would be about reefer madness for me would be mushrooms, and I fear that extremely well. So I love mushrooms. I love what they do, but I do not want to see them commercialized or sold out to the grand public for a couple of large companies that grow them inorganically. I am seriously for home grow, and it's creating a very broke life for myself. Being an advocate at my core, it makes it hard to align with corporate cannabis.
I feel that. It is so hard.
It's really, really hard, because I believe in the grassroots of what we're doing. And we just got to, like, I don't know, we got to figure it out. But it's got to be a lot more conversation, a lot more education before we get there.
That's why I wanted to, well, that's why I started the nonprofit, was for the education, because I feel like there is so much like actual education that's lacked. I feel like so many people are just trying to do the, hey, I smoke and I can be normal side, and not actually taking the time to go, okay, that's cool, but let's explain to them why this should be normal. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like the education side was lacked. And then I started it, and then I spoke to you, and I'm like, yep, this is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it's so many people are just so ill educated, and not even maybe even do because they just never even knew about it. Maybe they never even heard it. I went on and did a live, and I spoke about why we shouldn't use the word marijuana and why we should use cannabis. I had 3 people message me afterwards that had no idea about the history of it, how it was derogatory and possibly sexist. They were like, and I'm like, this is why I'm doing what I do.
Well, it's plagued into the event of where a lot of people are believing that cannabis has like this equity concept, and conversation is about racism. It At my core belief, I don't believe that.
Okay.
I've been hustling all of my hustlers, even when I was working way back in medical and prohibition, all the hustlers in the city were every other color but white. I guarantee you that the Chinese, Latino, Cuban, black, everyone else. And it took the ballsy white redneck growers to bringing it down to the hustlers. And every color that I can imagine I've worked with. Armenians bought my first club like in 2004. Wow. I mean, I really haven't embraced this concept of equity being a racist concept. I really see it as narcissistic authoritarianism. And when you come into these small communities where you have cops growing up that aren't even in small communities, and they're already like pre-programmed to be racist or to be, subduing the powers of other people, it just plays into cannabis being an easy target. It's just an easy way to bust them because you can smell it. You can do these things. It's not like everybody's being targeted because of cannabis. They're being, it's just kind of a flag that allows them a door to just fuck with them, because they're just looking for reasons to fuck with them anyways, because it's narcissistic authoritarianism. They're trying to keep the people down, and all colors in all places. But right now, if you look at Afghanistan, women aren't even allowed to drive. And I'm talking to people going, we don't really have a place for this conversation when we don't look at the global scale of what we're talking about. Like,
I like that.
The racism thing is like, I've been, spending time in black communities, and I'm like the only white girl in 100 square miles. And there is a lot of reverse racism that a lot of people in America aren't going to understand. They look at this white bitch, like, she comes in, thinks she knows shit, like, oh, she's just a spoiled white girl. I bet that's her husband that grows. No, I'm sorry. I grow it. Always have. Never been married. Maybe one day, but shit, it's really hard to find men, right? And but yeah, I just wanted to really like put my energy out there and let people know that, like,
I appreciate you. There's been so many comments. I can't wait to go back and read them afterwards, that everybody's just like, yes, oh my God, I didn't know. Like, you have struck. And this is what I was hoping for. I was like, this is either going to flop and people are going to get really angry, or it's going to be the other side like we got, and everybody's like, oh, and that's what I wanted.
Well, it's just my research. And I just working in the international community, it kind of gives you a little bit different perspective. And then in reverse, you're able to give that respect to some of these very, these places, they don't have any idea. Right. Like, I mean, IG is the only thing that really connects the whole world. So it's kind of crazy. I mean,
it's true.
It's super scary. If anybody had any questions or comments that they wanted to start like conversations with Amanda or any of these other ladies that are in this, like, repost it, because I don't know how to like scroll through this thing.
I'll repost it. Yeah. Do you need to get back to your garden? Do you need to get back to the garden?
Right now, I took the morning off to talk to you guys. So whatever you guys need, put me in the background. Put in whatever you guys need. I'm here to talk to you.
I have about 5 minutes.
Oh. Chucky, what up, Chucky? That's my boy right there in SVG. He's joining. Shout outs to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I love Chucky.
I got 5 minutes. If anybody has any questions or comments for AC, post them down below. I want to hear what you guys, if you guys have anything that you want to ask her, if you have any perspective on
you
your
can just
side.
tell me I'm a crazy bitch, and I'll take it. I'll ingest it. It's okay.
I personally love you so freaking much. Like when we were in Reno,
it's been great to meet you.
I was all the way on the other side of the table, and Danielle was sitting next to me, and then it was you on the other side. But I heard you guys talk, like starting this conversation, and I'm like leaning forward, and I'm like, I don't want to get in Danielle's face. I was like, but I really want to hear this combo. So it ended up switching, and that conversation that we had on this topic that night at the end of that table, man, I was just like, this is my people. Like, that's how I knew that I was in the right spot. I was like, yes.
It's got to be spoken about. And yes,
Do consulting?
Reglo, I do consulting. You can find me at indicainnovations.com. I do consulting on all aspects and anywhere of any level. I just love to help people. And so, yeah, you can definitely find me or just talk to me like on the norm if you just, if you're like all of us and struggling and just need a little bit of pointers. I like to be able to like spread some love. Definitely. You guys just keep educating yourself.
Yeah.
Just remember to turn off the fucking TV and educate yourself. And don't rely just on media posts.
No.
Look deeper and look into the corruption that is America. Like, we are a joint union of corruption. And so we have to be a joint union of communication as well to overthrow all this bullshit. Like, seriously, trust each other. Like, come together on grassroots level and smoke weed. If you want.
I'm down for it. Well, AC, I appreciate this so much. I can't wait to see all of it afterwards. Like, I kind of want to go back and listen to it. I tried taking notes, but when you talk, I just get so like in it. All I wrote was narcissistic authoritarianism.
It's the shit that is ruling the world. Narcissistic authoritarianism is what slams all those beautiful people to the ground.
Yeah.
It's what's keeping the black communities down. It's keeping the black communities down and Chinese communities.
Everybody.
It's keeping fucking Syria and Afghanistan and America all in check.
Mm-hmm.
All we have to do is be realistic about it. And we could use weed as a catalyst for information, but we just have to accept the fact that growing our own is really the only answer.
Yep.
Like, take the power away from them by taking the money away from them.
It's true. All right. Well, we're going to end this. Before I do, if anybody is over here and you're not following AC, go follow her, because even her posts that she does, she has such a natural way of showing how she does things, which is kind of where she was going with this whole thing anyways, like how to do it yourself and get in the garden, get your feet dirty. And she does do the consulting. Like, she had a really awesome, actually, I have her magnet on. Nice. I have it in my office on my right on my file cabinet, so every time I open it up, like, I got AC in my office.
Sweet. Innovation's hitting home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much again,
I'll have to send
AC.
you a crop top next.
Yes, please.
What's that?
Yes, please send me one. I'm also,
Absolutely.
when I start growing, like I told you, I'm going to start naturally growing, but I'm going to wait until next spring because I want to do your whole outdoor thing and get your crop top to throw up on top of it. But
that'll be fun for you.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Well, but it being Washington, I got to wait till spring. We're now in that rainy, cloudy.
Oh yeah. That'll make for a messy year, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you, AC, and I appreciate all of you so much.
Much love. Have a great day.
Bye.